This is News Talk, 1590 KVT. I'm Lynn Fairley. Good afternoon, Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. I am here with one of the, I've been doing this 6.5 years. And early on, I did something called the Faces of Ventura Project. And I met a person who I hope I can call a friend, not just an acquaintance.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And it's been years that we've slowly developed this friendship. And it's one of my best friends in the whole world, especially right here.
Lynn.
And it's Doug Halter. Welcome back for the fourth time.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's always an honor to be here. And you're
thanks.
absolutely one of my best friends in my life, too. So that was
Thank
a
you.
great day 6.5 years ago that we met.
It was kind of cool. And then coincidentally, we kept kind of coming back, and I didn't notice it until a while ago, coming back to that same April date.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Curious, right around your birthday when we first interviewed. And then for some reason, the other visits you've made here were right around that same time.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same sync for some reason.
I'm
not quite sure why.
Although, I don't know. It's just kismet.
Yeah.
But here we are in July,
Yeah.
21st, 2017. Is that right?
22nd, I
Is it the
believe.
22nd?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It's exactly a year ago the horrendous sand fire was
that's right.
burning, and it burned for months and months up there in the LA National Forest area, where it came from 30 yards from losing my primary residence there.
I remember.
Yeah,
I
and I'm
remember
just
everything that was
finished
going on.
cleaning up the ash.
That was unbelievable that
was a
anybody made
year
it through
ago.
that.
Really, truly, yeah.
The firemen are again doing an unbelievable job,
Aren't they?
Yeah,
and I love thinking. You know what? That's what we'll do with the Shoemakers, because every show I dedicate to law enforcement, their canine companions, fire, military, Coast Guard, anybody in civic service.
Perfect.
And we'll talk about the fire a little bit later.
Okay.
And you're one of those people that have been doing your civic duty in this community, in this county, since you got here.
For pretty much about, I've been here 30 years, so at least 25 of those 30 years.
Thank you for that. Thank you so very much for that.
Well, you're very welcome. It's funny, I've gone through different paths in my life, and everybody has their story to tell. But for me, I learned early on that what's important in life is relationships, about giving back, about making sure that we make a difference because we were here than if we weren't here. And for whatever reason, I was granted the challenges I were to help recognize that early on in life. So since at least 25 years, I've been very involved in our community. And as you know, it started very simply. And I think you want to know, in case some of the listeners don't know.
You overturned every single rock in 2 counties.
Yes.
And so for those people who are still living under a rock you haven't yet discovered, my guest is Doug Halter. So continue
thanks, Lynn.
introducing yourself for those people who
As
don't
you know,
you.
I'm
Yes.
very humbled and I'm honored to have the type of respect I have in the community from so many fantastic people. And I think this comes from years of participating at many different levels, starting with helping out with the AIDS epidemic and AIDS care of Ventura County and the AIDS partnership, and then helping to co-found the Downtown Community Council to bring back our downtown, to the startup of the music festival, which I'm currently president of this year.
Yes, congratulations. And what a great festival so far.
We're in the middle of our 23rd season.
Wow.
We have 2 more concerts to go, tonight and tomorrow night.
Yes.
And it has been an unbelievable festival. Truly has exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, we had Navi Meda call us last week, and then Spence had him on with his... Did he come with his violin, Spence?
He came in studio, but he did not bring his violin.
And so he was on last Wednesday, I think, somewhere in there. And yes, here we are with the president.
Yes, so
yes.
That's one of those things that we started 23 years ago. I was on the board of conveners there. I was president for about 3 years early on. I'm currently president this year again, so I came full circle. I've been involved, of course, in a lot of different causes, a lot of different issues. I had purchased the church that we then created Rubicon in. The Ventura Botanical Gardens is one of my greatest loves.
And that's been one of the most fantastic things to watch. It's a world-class garden already, but I can't wait to see it grow up because it's just in its infancy, really. Literally, the plants grow. Yeah.
Lynn, I'm absolutely astounded at the community support. The community support and how, for the first time in my history in this community of over 30 years, I feel like there's not another side. Everyone's working together to make the botanical gardens a reality.
If only they do that in other businesses.
Exactly, and in other areas. You know, we got to
yeah.
take what we learned with the botanical gardens and find that commonality, I hope, so we can make more good things happen for our communities. But
which part of the garden are you developing now? I know we've had the president, James Cahill, and he's your botanist as well, yeah?
Yeah, Joe Cahill.
Joe Hill,
Yeah.
Joe Hill. And Joe was talking about the Chilean garden. Are you still working on that one?
We are.
Yeah.
What it is, the botanical gardens, we know it's much more than a garden, and I won't get all the way into it because that would take our whole program. But I will just say that 5 Mediterranean gardens, representing the 5 Mediterranean biomes of the world that are most like our climate here in California. And we started first with the Chilean gardens. We already have more Chilean plants in our garden than any other place outside of Chile.
Oh, amazing. Oh,
Okay.
wow.
The support for this garden has been through the roof as far as, we could always, this is a huge project though, and I think the community knows that.
It'll go way beyond your lifetime and mine.
Yeah, this is something, it would take generations to build cathedrals back in medieval days.
That's right, huh?
So everything starts, look at Golden Gate Park, it all starts someplace with an idea, with somebody taking the initiative, making it happen. And we're well on our way to that
park. That was
park.
you, Doug Halter.
Well, thanks. Well, we're well on our way to having this park help define and, define the future of this community.
And wow, that's interesting because it will. I mean, the future of this community is great.
Mm-hmm.
But to have that world-class garden up there behind us and that land never developed there for.
Right.
Well, wow.
But see, Lynn, it's more, again, I hate to focus too much on the garden.
No,
the garden
it's
like a curation of plant material. It's like plant museum artifacts, really.
Yeah.
And along with that goes, we're attaching historic aspects to it. We're attaching educational opportunities, exercise, hiking, community building. Whereas right now, and I think everyone that goes up there will attest to what I'm saying, it's used by over 3,000 people a week already.
That's remarkable.
And
remarkable.
Everybody that walks past each other on the trail, people always say hi to each other.
Yeah, they do.
It's community building.
And you can take your dogs.
And you can take your dogs on a leash. Okay.
Yes, and
Yes.
and mind your compost coordination.
That's correct. You got that.
So
But
you can hike this magnificent garden if you haven't. Oh my gosh. It's right behind City Hall,
Correct.
which is at the top of California. And
That's
you can
correct.
park right there behind City Hall.
Just follow the parking lot all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
You will see the entrance to the garden. And there's so much to be able to share with you, but I know we got other things to talk about. But
For years.
but the garden is the Chilean garden is our first step. We have one path, one trail that's 1.25 miles long that everyone's using significantly right now.
Regularly, yeah.
And our entrance or welcome center hopefully will be next. I know there's going to be people are sponsoring sites to help pay for the gardens. That's why they see markers
That's
up
cool
there.
because you can have your bench or your stone or your view
Your
or
view
your
site,
stairs or maybe a whole section of plants, your planter.
That's correct. Randy and I sponsored the stairs that were there, so we turned those stairs into stone stairs instead of railroad tie stairs, so they would be there forever. Rotary, the 3 Rotaries are getting together and are going to Rotary Plaza, and that's going to be a phenomenal site.
Well, I look forward to watching that. And as you know, I've supported it on the radio.
Yes, I know.
By encouraging everybody to go and having the various different people in. And I look forward to finding out what the next garden is because we'll have Joe Cahill back one day.
Okay, perfect.
Is Robin on hold?
That was Jim Nichols.
Jim Nichols.
And he was wondering about the Auto Mall land behind there. That's in a redevelopment. Who knows what they're going to do with it?
In Oxnard here?
In Ventura.
In
I
Ventura.
say hockey rink.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey
okay.
rink.
Well, of course, you
But
vote
what
for
would
that.
we do? What would we do with that
Performance
wonderful
center.
area?
Badly need a really big performance center.
Yeah, but, behind the Auto Mall, if we should have a whole show sometime on visioning on what we think the future of our community really should be.
I was going to ask you at the end
Because
of the show, but I realized that's a whole show.
That's more than a whole show because I will tell you, as we get into our topic today about political correctness,
Part 2.
there's things that we don't talk about because you're automatically labeled something. Like in this case,
Well, that's
if I
political
tell you-
correctness or not, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes, we're on topic already. So let's say if you tell me,
Yeah, because Spence just kind of led us into there because
Yes,
if you ask me
caller
what
did.
would I do with the
Yes.
Auto Center, what would I do with Johnson Drive
yes,
as the entrance to our community, I would say that that area should be allowed to become part of our Ventura County Financial District. I think that
wow,
it really should. It would be. It's the center of the county. It's easy access on freeways. It's in certain areas really needs to be brought up to current uses and meet the needs of today.
highest and best use of the real
That's correct.
estate. Okay.
And so maybe it's not so much all the Auto Center, but definitely the side on the other side of Johnson Drive. But when you talk about allowing people to go higher,
Okay.
or to build office buildings of some type, you're oftentimes labeled a developer. And the word developer is not a good word to most
that
people in today's
politically
world.
incorrect?
It's politically incorrect.
For this region.
But being a community advocate, which I think I've been most of my
We think
life
so. Was that like the number
know,
one?
that's more palatable when people gain the trust and they know that you're making decisions and you're making recommendations and advocating for something that is truly in the best interest to solving the problems and the needs of our community.
Which is jobs.
Which it would be jobs, it would be office buildings for the companies of today that are not locating in Ventura because we don't have those office
We don't.
buildings.
Not at all. Yeah.
You know, it would stop the 30% of Venturans that commute to Santa Barbara every day to go
And
to
clear
their
up your
jobs up
personal
there.
traffic problems.
That's exactly right. You see my posts.
Yes, I do.
Once in a while. I don't have much of a filter in the morning. Unfortunately, I'm too like somebody else these days.
Yeah, our Twitter in chief.
Yeah, Twitter and tree. Yeah, I think I tend to be a little more benign.
Diplomatic.
And diplomatic,
yes,
I would
yes, you
say.
do. Yes, politically correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I would
you
hope
do.
so anyways.
But you rant about the traffic.
I do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you ask about things like Johnson Drive, and Jim Nichols called in on that, is the Auto Center, right now it is our largest tax revenue in the city, is Auto
Okay,
Center.
so this is
So
why.
anything we
okay.
could do to support that, to
I
continue
see.
paying for the services that we need in our community. I, like a lot of people, know that one of the biggest degradation to the quality of life here in Ventura County is traffic.
Yeah.
So I believe it's absolutely criminal that we do not have an effective mass transit plan
Yes.
that we're working toward for all of Southern California.
Interesting.
That's hundreds of billions of dollars worth of effort over probably 30, 50 years and growing. But somebody needs to start. A monorail should be down that Ventura Freeway all
Yes.
the way to LA.
Yeah.
The Auto Center's there, and yes, people have autos, so they need to buy them somewhere. So let's buy them in our city, so we get the tax money for those for selling
And let's
those.
have plenty of vision about how electric that's going.
That's exactly
And maybe
correct.
do that with solar. I don't know.
But we have to be
Hydrogen?
cognizant of where we're at today with what people see. I guess I always let me stop that thought for a second and just say that I'm always cognizant of this in life, is that as an engineer by major, I know about a lot of universal laws. I've studied a lot in physics. People are no different than everything else in nature. En masse, people will follow the path of least resistance. Individually, we have the intellect not to do that. But en masse, we will follow the path of least resistance.
So there we are back with political correctness once again.
Yep.
Because that's the psychology of political correctness.
It's an interesting
Genius.
thing to observe over my lifetime, because I think what happens is I then believe that policymakers, legislators, government officials, those in leadership, they have an onus, a responsibility to always make sure that the laws and the policy, the direction that they're setting, is the direction that is in the best interest of the community or the people they're serving.
Yes.
Otherwise, if they're putting up barriers to allowing people to go the right direction, they're defeating their purpose.
Problem with a lot of that is, how'd they get in office in the first place? Their constituency said, I will vote for you if you do this or you don't do that or you do this or that. And a lot of them will say, do not develop that area there. Do not have high rises. Oh my gosh, the environment, and so on and so forth. So that's how they got the job. Then they get there and they would really like to do the best for the entire community, vision-wise, 50 years from now down the road, say, develop a good traffic plan. But will they be voted back into office?
See, and Lynn, you hit it right on the head. We went right into this because I tell you, I'm doing some work right now with a couple members on the city council. But what's interesting to me is that we were talking about whether or not we know what the values of our community are. I feel very, very clear that people who live, at least in West Ventura County, our values are very similar. We value the same things. And so it's not about our values. It's about having leaders that can connect the dots.
Well, interesting, yes.
Because there will be steps that have to be taken for the greater good that may not be palatable
right now.
But if you connect those dots and you realize by doing this and this and this, we now obtain this.
Your grandkids will have a monorail, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
The monorail will have jobs. They don't have to move out of town. We have a bell curve of housing.
And a beautifully sustained botanical garden.
That's true.
So our caller, let's see, the answer to your question, caller, is we have a hockey rink, a performance center, an auto center, and some office buildings all in the same place.
That's not a bad thought.
You know?
The only thing when you say performance center, as you know, I'm very near and dear to the arts and culture in our community.
Yes.
And I will be thrilled to someday in my life see a performance,
Great,
a true
big,
performing
huge
arts
one
center.
that could be turned into a hockey rink.
I'd
you know
love
how
it.
they put ice over the top of a basketball court?
That's,
why not? So if you
yeah.
have a Cirque Theater in the round, gigantic one, right, where we can have concerts, like Santa Barbara Bowl style. You could even open the roof, for example, and then close it, lay down a basketball court.
Exactly.
Then later, put some ice on it.
That's actually, I think
why not?
We're saying the same thing, but I think that it's a little bit different. If it was really focused more on the arts and theater and music and education,
yes,
I would
all
probably.
That is absolutely possible.
It could be absolutely possible at that location. I also want to get the economies of scale of using the people that will visit that to also frequent our restaurants and businesses and hopefully be within walking distance of a way to get there.
Yes.
Okay.
Or monorail.
That's right.
Back and forth there.
So that very well could be one of the sites.
Sure.
My first site for something like a performing arts type center truly is the fairgrounds, the county fairgrounds.
Actually. You're actually right, because it already is.
That's why I hesitated a little bit on that.
It actually already is.
Well, that land was donated by E.P. Foster 100 years ago. And it was given to the city of Ventura, who then gave it to the state of California, who then gave it to the Department of Agriculture. So it's not really under any local control.
Oh, interesting.
But it is 1/3 the size of all of downtown Ventura.
Wow, that's a lot. And Spence is dying to say something.
Could we do something with the Ventura Theater?
Can we? Oh, I love those questions, Spence.
Because it's a classic building.
It
would seat, 1,500 if redone?
If it was redone. Now, the thing... I love history, I love architecture, and that's one of the classics, and thank God we still have it. It's always comes down to the property owner who owns it. Yes, we can, and we would love to do something more with the Ventura Theater, but it comes down to the property owner who owns that property on what they want to do. Again, it's private property rights, and we as a community can encourage them and share with them that we will frequent your business, but please update this and make it available for these uses. Or sell it to somebody who's willing to do that.
Who owns this, or do we want to say exactly who?
I kind of lost track of some of the names in downtown
Is it a big
Ventura.
Corporation, or is it?
No, it's not.
Somebody local who could really do this?
It is somebody local, from what I remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's a great building, and we have, fortunately, like I said, what attracted me to Ventura is history, and we dived right into the whole our whole topic. But one thing begets another,
Yes, it does. It's all connected, which was where I was going to go with it anyway.
That's unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, it just really is. Once you get involved, you realize that civic involvement is really what life's all about. It's about relationships and giving back and being part of a community.
And if you don't think one person can make a difference, you're wrong. I'm talking to that guy.
Well,
so don't be that sheep. Don't sit home and wait for Doug to do everything. Get involved, because one person can make a difference one step at a time.
But as Spencer has said, is that when you have an idea, like this building could be a really neat performing arts studio.
Very much so.
Center,
yeah.
The Ventura
and the
Theater.
studio, for that matter.
When Randy and I purchased the church there at Laurel and Main. That was exactly when I looked at it. I looked at it because I was curious from a historic standpoint. I had no idea I was going to buy that building.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And then when I walked through it, I realized this is perfect.
And it is, and it still is. I love going to the Rubicon Theater. That's our best theater in town, really. It's our only one.
That's one of
high quality performances, because Carol Lynn and her husband, they bring Jim O'Neill, they bring people from all over the world. The last person here was from Vienna.
That's right.
Did Mozart's sister.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's, it's been amazing because Carolyn Burns is really, and Jim O'Neill, the brains behind Rubicon. Randy and I had the vision to buy a building to create a theater.
Amazing.
Okay, but we were friends, and we shared the same goal. And Carolyn and Jim more than exceeded my expectations on quality, professional theater.
Incredible.
And we continue to get regional awards beyond what anybody would ever imagine.
In such a small theater.
In such a small theater.
They could if there was a way to expand it.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So, and I should have said that you work very closely with another person in your entire life on all these projects. So, Randy and Cenas, I hope you're listening. You deserve as much credit as this man does, because you support each other all the way through life, and it's a beautiful relationship.
Thanks, Lynn.
It is.
It's interesting because as we get into our topic here, unless we're out of time
no,
already.
We're good.
Are we good? Okay.
We're going to take a break in a minute, and then we'll get right into it. Because it's all, like you said, it is the topic.
Yeah.
Political correctness is very much related to social correctness, and I've often wondered, why is it just called political? But then you said to me earlier, life is politics.
Life is politics.
So politics is a social topic.
It's interesting, Lynn, because you hear people all the time say, I don't pay attention to politics. I don't like politics. I don't think anybody necessarily likes politics, but politics is nothing more than relationships, and building relationships, and finding commonality, and coming to agreements. And that's really what we do in every aspect of our life.
And we all live together in a place, whether it's Ventura, Santa Barbara, whatever, wherever. And because we do, politics must play a part in your life.
That's right.
Must. Because we can't organize things like a theater, or a new performance center, or a hockey rink, if we aren't talking to each other. And then that conversation becomes political.
But when, as you know, I still speak a lot in schools, too. I'm still out in the colleges.
Yes.
And usually about the AIDS epidemic. And but one of the things I try to instill in the students that I speak to is that everything begins with that thought. Everything begins by somebody having the courage to take action on something they said, somebody ought to do this, or why doesn't somebody do that? No, it begins by each one of us having the courage to try to take that step and try to gain that camaraderie. And otherwise be involved civically and gain strength, I guess, politically or socially, where
both.
other people support.
Social, but then we need to combine the word. We need a word.
Maybe it's
political, social, so political.
I'm afraid I'm going to come up with something really bad. No, I better watch it on the air.
Well, yes, no swearing. Not that you would, but you'd be very surprised to find out that the term political correctness dates all the way back. Can you guess the date?
1793.
Wow, you're good.
I think I saw it on your sheet.
It's true, though. Can you believe it? The term politically correct was used infrequently until the latter part of the 20th century, where we hear it all the time. And it even now is said, we've abbreviated it to PC. Because everything is now abbreviated.
PC. Yeah, everything is.
T, Q, X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. This earlier use did not communicate the social disapproval usually implied in more recent usage. In 1793, the term politically correct appeared in a U.S. Supreme Court judgment of a political lawsuit. That far ago, not long ago. The term also had its use in other English-speaking countries in the 1800s. And William Safire states the first recorded use of the term in the typical modern sense is by an author, Tony Bambara, in the 1970 anthology, The Black Woman. The term probably entered use in the United Kingdom somewhere around 1975. So basically 200 years later.
Wow.
we are tossing it around, and we're still trying to figure out what it means.
And now we talk about it all the time.
All the time. Okay? In the early to mid-20th century, the phrase politically correct was associated with a dogmatic application of the Stalinist doctrine, debated between Communist Party members and American socialists. This usage referred to the Communist Party line, which provided correct positions on many political matters, according to American educator Herbert Cole, writing about debates in New York City in the late 40s and 50s. So that's mid-20th century, where the communists were arguing with the American socialists, and the communists had a correct way of looking at politics.
See, and that seems like politically correct. That is probably the truest sense of the term.
Yes,
you know,
yes, in terms of correct use of English as well.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah, but we've really stretched it.
We've stretched it.
Very much so. The term politically correct was used disparagingly to refer to someone whose loyalty to the Communist Party line overrode compassion. And sometimes that's what we get today, is that if you're not PC, maybe you're not compassionate.
That's exactly correct.
It was used by the socialists against the communists, and it was meant to separate our socialists who believed in egalitarian moral ideals from dogmatic communists who would advocate and defend party positions regardless of their moral substance. So we're still bantering this around. It's unbelievable to me, actually. And then in the early 80s, when feminists used the term political correctness, it was used to refer sarcastically to the anti-pornography movement efforts to define a feminine sexuality. So, you know, if you were talking about women and, you know, you were politically incorrect if all you were doing was speaking about them in a sexual term. You know,
right,
like
where
honey.
you're describing the group as just a sexual term and
Yes.
trying to label what we call stereotype on
That's
that group.
It's about stereotypes.
Yeah, I think it is.
Mainly.
You know, I think it's about stereotype. I think it's, you know, it's an interesting time period we live in now.
It always has been, in my estimation. I think back in
Yeah.
1793, that I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at that Supreme Court decision, frankly. Human behavior is infinitely interesting to me.
Well, I think the difference in the dynamics, I think human beings have basically been the same creatures for thousands of years.
Yes,
okay?
I agree.
But it's, we've gotten to be more educated for the most part. We have greater use of the resources available to us on this planet. We're learning the damages that we're doing and how to fix those or to prevent those.
Yes.
And we're taking better stewardship of
Stewardship's
our
a great
planet,
word.
I think.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's the dynamics today. What makes this time period different is technology.
Very much so.
Technology truly has revolutionized the human existence.
Very much so. We're going to take a break right there. Stay tuned, because we'll be right back with News Talk 1590 KBT and my guest, Doug Halter. All right, we do that with the Shoemaker Brothers.
Fell in love with a dancing girl. Fell so hard that it rocked my world. Headed off to a place in Iraq, and that man that she loved never made it back. Take me out.
Okay, hi. Normally, hi. Hello, everyone. Normally, I read a comment or a quote concerning something political, in a sense that I like to think the military, anybody doing their civic duty, like my guest, Doug Halter. And I did earlier kind of say I thank all the firemen who saved my house a year ago, and I do. But I also have an announcement. I've been doing my civic duty here for about 6.5 years on KVTA and originally on KKZZ, trying to find all the people. I think the youngest person I interviewed was Spence's kid, Cole, at the time. And Aubrey was sitting on the counter here because she was too small to stand because the counter's kind of high. And at the time he was 7, and I have a wonderful video of him explaining to me the rules of hockey. And it was a delightful conversation, and I think I still have it somewhere on Facebook. And the oldest person was Howard Burroughs at the time, who was 94 and lived to be 102. who worked with Albert Einstein many, many years ago, and did commit his life to civic duty, and also helped a lot of what we have here. He started before Doug Halter got here, doing what Doug Halter's continued to do. And so I'm going to need to take a break. It's 6.5 years. I need a minor knee surgery. I want to travel a little bit, and I want to look at some of my options. And so I'm going to take a break for about 2 months and come back at the end of September, early October, and start all over again, finding the most interesting people I have been very, very fortunate to get to know and interview all these years. It's been hundreds, and I was looking at it the other day because I thought, wow, I should write down all this. Well, I have, but I should put it in sort of a, I don't know, an album or something of all the interviews I've done, hundreds and hundreds of them, and I've met the most interesting people. And I want to say thank you to Ventura and Santa Barbara counties and all the people who called in from all over different parts of the nation for listening to my show, the Lynn Fairley and Fabulous Friend Show, because you're all fabulous. I've had the most. I've been so lucky. Oh, my gosh. And to thank Tom Spence for being here every Saturday. Oh, my gosh, hardest working guy in the world. Every Saturday you're here helping me with a show. We actually might have a caller as well. We're talking about political correctness, and thank you very much for the call earlier. Hopefully we sort of answered your question, but do feel free to call back, 805-650-1590. Anyone and everybody who wants to continue with this. Do we have a caller on hold?
It's Robin.
Robin, hi. Thanks for calling. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. I'm ready to cry because I think Spence just said you're not going to be there next week.
Well, yes. I don't know if you got my email. I did email you.
Okay, good. I probably haven't checked.
Okay. All right. Well, actually, that's better. So thank you again for calling. No, this one's maybe my last live because the person I'm doing an interview with can't come in on a weekend. So I believe I'm going to be recording that next Thursday, I think. Which will be a really interesting show as well.
I'm sure, but this is your last live show until October then.
Possibly, which is why I thought I'd take this break to thank every single person in the world that's ever listened to this show, and you, because you're like my favorite and number one fan.
Well, I'm going to miss you because it's the 12 o'clock hour. I know Spence is going to be glad to get out of there at 12 o'clock for the next couple of months, but tell him not to get used to it, but it's only going to be a couple months.
Okay. I think he just heard you say that.
And you did email me, so now I can email you back properly since I don't have a Facebook page. I have your email address now, so I can keep in touch with you. I won't bother. I promise I won't hound you. I'll just say, how's your knee surgery? Missed you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much. I do very much appreciate your...
One of these days I want to meet you.
Okay. Okay. We'll do that.
Okay.
We will do that.
Well, I'll catch you in October, but I'll email you in the meantime, Lynn, and I really appreciate your shows, and you're always going to have subjects down the road. I know you're talking to your guest earlier, but that's another subject down for another show. You're always going to have shows.
Oh, yeah. No,
topics.
I don't. I have content for the rest of my life. I'm not worried about content.
No, you're never going to run out of content.
No, especially with people like my guest today. This guy could stand here and talk the rest of his life about everything. Oh, my gosh. I've heard every
interview you've done with him. So, I don't think I've missed very many of your shows, to be honest with you.
He just said he gives me an opportunity to say a few words from time to time. He should do a show, really. He's the guy that should fill in every once in a while.
Yeah, I wish Spence could have got a fill-in, but I know that requires sponsors and money because Spence needs his money and the radio station needs their money. But I guess we're going to have a substitute syndicated show for a couple of months. But
I'm not sure what they're going to do, but yeah.
Well,
hopefully it's keeps the listenership glued.
Oh well, he's going to have to run promos of your advertisements a couple of weeks before you come back, just to let everybody know Lynn's coming back.
Oh well, thank you, Robin. I really do appreciate your listening, and thank you so much for the call.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye, Lynn.
Bye bye. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, that was awfully nice. So. Political correctness is so funny. So since it's been around since 1793, I went and pulled up some very pretty funny words as to what the old terms used to be and what the new ones are.
Oh, okay. Let's hear those.
Conservative, old term, is now reactionary.
Oh.
The establishment is now the white power elite. Alive, temporarily metabolically abled. Temporarily metabolically abled. Abled.
Okay.
That's alive.
Okay.
Ugly, aesthetically challenged, rude, politically correct. This is just this one list. Psychopath.
Oh, that's interesting.
Socially misaligned, bald, follicularly challenged, non-white, non-male, oppressed, white, melanin impoverished, genetically oppressive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Black, African American, Asian, Asian American, Afro American, African American, pregnancy, parasitic oppression.
Oh, no.
Janitor, sanitation engineer,
Yes.
dishwasher, utensil sanitizer. Let's see. We're going to skip some of these because they're crazy. Fishing, raping the oceans, farming, exploiting Mother Earth, paper bag, processed tree carcass. And I, instead of being the, I pick up all the dog poo at my house because I raise Dalmatians. And so I found a politically correct term for myself. I am the compost coordinator.
Compost coordinator.
Yes,
All right.
yes, I am. Dirty old man, sexually focused, chronologically gifted individual. Perverted, sexually dysfunctional, panhandler, unaffiliated applicant for private sector funding. Serial killer, person with difficult to meet needs. Lazy, motivationally deficient. Fail, achieve a deficiency. To fail.
To fail.
Is to achieve a deficiency. This is, in public school where everybody gets a trophy.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person
no matter
gets
what.
a trophy.
Yeah.
So even if you fail, you've achieved something here. You've achieved a deficiency. Dishonest, ethically disoriented.
Oh.
We know a few of those people.
Yes, we
Ethically disoriented. Disoriented.
Unfortunately.
I think this word disoriented is funny. Clumsy, uniquely coordinated.
Uniquely coordinated.
Body order, non-discretionary fragrance. Non-discretionary fragrance. The worst is the least best. Another trophy winner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wrong, differently logical. Unemployed, involuntarily leisured. Short, vertically challenged. Dead, living impaired.
Living impaired. That's a good one. Oh, no.
Okay.
Well.
Spendthrift, we know a few of those.
Yeah.
A negative saver.
Yes.
Stoned is the last one.
Oh.
Chemically inconvenienced. So there's some of the new ones.
Those are pretty funny.
Aren't they?
Yeah. It's really, it's really about not placing judgment or not saying a term that automatically places judgment or is derogatory.
Right. There's so many different, I spent hours trying to find the definition. One. And I found so many, which is how I found the one that was dated back in 1793. And you rightly stated that the one we read recently was probably the most correct usage of it. And then I did a whole thing on Facebook. Well, what do you think it means before the show? I got all kinds of people responding.
I saw that. That was on Facebook, I think you put it. Yeah.
And everybody was all over the place with their definitions.
And then there's a lot of side conversations going on.
Always. I do that every week. And it's fascinating to me because it takes me about an hour. And I sit there, and then I leave the conversation, and it goes and goes and goes, and I come back the next day, and there's way more replies. It's been a fun way to engage people online versus just send trashy news around. Just start a debate.
I love that. I love the questions and seeing the responses, and it was a perfect startup again before we took the break, because I had left off about the difference with the dynamics today in today's world is technology.
Yes.
And this is exactly it. The speed at which we can communicate, the multitude of ways we can communicate, whether it be visually or verbal, has never been more available to us across the world and across all these communities. So we could. There has to be new etiquette, new social norms that
That's
will
what
be
we're
developed
striving
over
for.
time.
That's really the point of this. This is where I thought I might tie a bow on it later.
Go ahead.
Is that all that we're doing here in this type of conversation by trying to redefine a word that we've had around since 1793 is to establish a point of conversation so that we can come together and speak with each other without offending anybody, if possible.
Yes.
And isn't that diplomacy? Isn't that political?
That's everything again in life. I mean, everything. Whether you're sitting down with your brother and sister or trying to negotiate the what to do with the family
Or your
property.
workers figure out what all your employees are doing.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. We were going over that this morning. Yeah, that's a whole another, well, it's more than a show, it's a series.
Here's another one from 1994. To address the subject of political correctness, when power and authority within the academic community is being contested by parties on either side of the issue, is to invite scrutiny of one's arguments that by would-be friends and would-be enemy combatants from the left and the right will try to assess whether a writer is for them or against them. This is a guy who wrote Self-Censorship in a Public Discourse, a theory of political correctness and related phenomena. This is his book. Now, let's talk about education. I have a friend of mine who, off Facebook, messaged me and said, do you have any idea what my 13-year-old just went through? 13 years old, he's in 8th grade. Okay, the school district decided, okay, this is public school, that these children at 13 may no longer use the pronouns he and she by addressing, well, he did this or she did that, because of gender fluidity. So one day, a kid comes to school as Carol, born a girl, dressed as a girl. Next week, she decides she's Carl. She cuts her hair, dresses as a boy. Now she's Carl. The next day, she's back to Carol. 2 weeks later, I know, she's Carlos.
Wow.
Whatever. So these kids, because of this gender fluidity issue and the peer pressure and sort of the trend, and it's cool, and you want to be part of the in crowd, are going through these changes as well as puberty at the exact same time. So yeah, probably they're confused. Probably
or they're
they
just
are
trying
confused.
to figure out who they are.
And they are trying to figure out who they are. But then
Yeah.
the school decided, all right, since we have this going on, and everybody's upset, like someone gets upset and in tears because she's called a she since she was a she all last week,
Oh, yeah.
and she's a he this week. All right, we're going to eliminate all the pronouns, all of them. So this mother has this kid who's in tears, who's 13 in the 8th grade, saying, Mom, I can't keep up with this. I don't know what to do because I'm staying a he for this year. But everybody around me is going like this and the other thing. I don't know what to do or what to say, and I'm getting in trouble, getting written up by the school for saying he at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And imagine this on top of all your homework and all the stress and all the other things you got to go through when you're 13 years old and have to remember who's what today.
It's funny because that's taking that.
Wow.
It's taking it to a whole new level.
Oh, boy.
Because of the fact that I'm not sure I would even have the capability of eliminating the pronouns. Okay, so I feel for that eighth grader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
But
every day, everybody's changing.
I think that if you're talking to or about somebody in a group, the way around that is probably to call them by name.
Yeah, but the problem is today they're Carol, tomorrow they're Carl.
So that becomes very confusing then. So maybe it's Carl/Carol. Or no, I'm being
It's
facetious.
hello, how are you today? It's
Yeah, hello,
you know,
that's right.
You
Or
know,
just leave
you
it
sort
out
of
completely.
leave out the names, leave out
Yeah.
the pronouns, and just, wow. So where do we go from there? Because then that sort of erodes some of the manners.
Yeah.
What happened to manners?
Well, see, that's the problem. It's really come to a head in the last year or so, really.
Yes.
From my
Really
standpoint.
has.
Because I can always argue and have a great debate with somebody and agree to disagree at the end.
Yeah.
And still take them out to lunch and be my best friend or
Absolutely,
something
yes.
like that. But we have between manners, respect, understanding that we are respectfully two intelligent individuals that weigh different life experiences
Yes.
and different knowledge. But if we share that knowledge, perhaps we might find where our commonality is and where we disagree. Okay?
Yes, this isn't the idea. But when you're 13 and you're worried about being popular and you're going through hormonal rages,
Exactly.
it's a little hard to get to that logical bit.
And it's a skill you develop over a
Many
course
years.
of
I'm still
many
working
years.
on it, frankly.
I know. Well, there's many people out there. A lot of us are. You're not alone.
And it's all of us are confused over this because we're all walking around worried about, am I being politically incorrect if I say anything?
I think, you know me too well, Lynn, but the thing is this, is that I've always valued people being who they are. I will always support individuality, uniqueness.
Me too.
And I believe very strongly that a higher being, God, created something called something special in every single one of us, and that's something to rejoice over. That's something to enrich our lives. Not something
we all
to
do
divide
have
our
unique
lives.
gifts. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to find out what those gifts are.
Usually, though, in my life experiences, it usually turns out being that one thing that comes so easy to you that you think everyone else has that same capability.
Oh, that's interesting because it's that easy.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's how
it's
my
so
landscaping
easy you
was
think
to me.
everybody can do it.
To me, I
how about
landscaped
that?
since I was a little kid.
I
and
know that the cool
you
story
know,
about you building
but
mud cities.
Mud cities. I was
Yeah.
on the newspaper doing that when I was about 9 or so.
Entire mud
entire
cities.
city.
The
Until
entire thing. Before you got an engineering degree, actually.
Yeah, and that was until I got tired of building it, and then I would have a natural disaster like the garden hose hit it.
And then you have a flood.
Yeah, have a flood.
How funny.
Have to start over again.
So, hey, that was helpful, though, when you went to go build something like the botanical garden.
That's right, trails. I could visualize pretty darn well. That's definitely a gift I have. I know
How
that.
about that? Like where
You
the
know.
water would go. So we'll put the trail there because the water will go down the trail easier or away from the trail.
Or how much soil. I know when I built my house, I came within about a few cubic yards of how much soil I needed to move to build my house.
Few cubic yards.
Yeah,
That's
which is not very
remarkable,
much.
really.
And I
Yeah.
did that just with playing around with the clay model and contouring, and
How fun.
I was surprised at how close I got. It was I think it was within 20 cubic yards or something like
Well, that's
that.
remarkable,
Yeah.
really. Huh. Because
So-
I've often wondered how that thing's up there. Are those big pylons in the ground, too, you had to bury?
Not in my case. A lot of people have them,
Oh.
but there's many different alternatives. For us, my house is basically built as one big concrete block.
Really?
So if it moves at all, it's
The whole
gonna,
thing's
the
gonna
whole
move.
thing's going to move.
Oh, no.
Because it is the whole bottom floor is walls, floor, 7-foot thick, solid concrete.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the other way to have done it is to do caissons going all the way down.
Yes. See, that's what I thought you were on, but no.
No.
Wow.
No, everybody's a little bit different, but
So you're depending on gravity to stay there.
I'm.
And
Yeah.
no huge earthquakes.
Don't assume anything, though.
No, I
okay,
know,
that's
I know, I
right.
know.
You can't assume anything. But
Wow, amazing. Well, here's another one. This is a British journalist. Political correctness is one of the brilliant tools that the American right developed in the mid-1980s as a part of its demolition of American liberalism. What the sharpest thinkers on the American right saw quickly was that by declaring war on the cultural manifestations of liberalism, by leveling the charge of political correctness against its opponents, they could discredit the entire political project. Now, this is a British guy looking at us from overseas,
I
right?
see.
So I thought to give you all the definitions I
Wow.
could find, because they're all over the map, right?
Yeah.
They're all over the map.
they are.
We really don't know what it is. So back to my point of the conversation being important, is that eventually perhaps we're going to come around to what it is for each of us and then find the commonality you just spoke about, a common point from which to speak. Because until we get this right, whether you're 13 or you're 63 or anywhere in between, we're going to just sit around arguing about just political correctness and get nothing else done.
That's exactly right.
That's the problem
worse
now.
Yet, the way I see it with political correctness, Lynn, is that it's too easy for leaders to get away with stating something that's politically correct without being a true leader and connecting the dots to show the constituency why that politically correct position is the correct position for our community
They're
to
too
go.
lazy, and,
You know what I mean?
they're worried about
Yeah.
not being elected again.
Yeah.
But if they did come to that and say, all right, you put me in power
Yep.
because I represent you. I believe I still do by being this guy or girl. And here's how I feel. I'm personally politically correct, or are you saying that I may be changing my view slightly from what you thought you elected because I've connected the dots, I've been networking, and we've been talking to each other, and we've all come together, and we realize this vision for our city is this instead of why you elected me?
Well,
That's tough.
because if you take each individual decision and you try to isolate them as if one decision doesn't beget another decision, you could very easily go down the wrong path.
But the voter doesn't necessarily.
But the voter sees that one thing that stood out to them. That
right.
if Doug Halter says that he wants to see an 8-story building on the freeway at Johnson Drive, oh my God, I'm probably a developer now if I say that.
Right, and so.
But if I justify that with the fact that we do not have the jobs for our workforce here, we talk about creating jobs because that's politically correct. In my mind, when people talk about creating jobs, as one example, that is politically correct because 95% of America has more than enough jobs.
Yes.
And as an employer, I can guarantee you we do.
And you're looking for people.
And I cannot find people.
Right.
So it's really, we should change the conversation from talking about jobs to talking about workforce.
There you go.
And creating the workforce that we need to fill the jobs that we have.
Yeah.
And unless we want to create new industries and bring those new industries and those type of jobs in. But right now, we have a huge labor shortage that's going on.
Right.
And so it's frustrating to me as a small employer to hear people talking about the lack of jobs when we've been working for 4 years looking for people to do labor. And
it's, the type of job you're looking for versus
right.
the job that maybe the 8-story building might bring in that they could be more interested in.
And the funny thing is we talk about high-end jobs and we talk about farmers for potential
that's what I was
immigrants
saying.
to come in. That's correct. But the interesting thing is the one industry you can never export is the service industry.
That's right.
And guess where we have the highest shortage today?
Well,
the service industry.
Yes, except for in technology where you try and call your credit card company, you're talking to India for 2 days before you get somebody else.
That's true.
Yeah, that was definitely exported.
That was exported. But
yes.
well, things like I'm talking about people doing landscaping, your plumbers, your carpenters, all your different trades, the concrete, even in the hotels, restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, we're all suffering a significant labor shortage, at least on the West Coast. I can't vouch for the entire country, but I do know there's a huge shortage of workers out there. And it's not about pay. It's really not about pay. I've been out there long enough to know that. It's about people wanting to take the jobs that we have to continue doing until we figure out how robots are going to plant plants in your front yard or serve you food in the restaurant.
The last show I did was 49 things that'll change your life in the future, half of which are already here.
Yeah.
And I'll loan you that article. It was mind-boggling because there were certain sectors that robots will absolutely take over, but something like nursing, which is a service, never.
The one thing that gets me, I got to tell you, is when it comes to the fact that every single one of us in this world just about now carries a cell phone with us. If somebody told us 20 years ago even, or maybe 25 years ago, that someday we'll all be carrying a device.
Miniature computers? Yeah.
Miniature computers. But worse yet, from an Orwellian standpoint, is something that we would know exactly where you're at all times
and
because you're completely
to your conversations,
and possibly listening to your conversations.
Possibly.
Where so there's no way where the world would ever buy into something like that.
That's right.
And here we are. And every single one of us are carrying that device.
And you have an iWatch on today. Randy, he actually wore it. And this thing tells you how many steps you've taken, how well you're breathing, if you're sleeping or not. Frankly, I paid someone to wear mine because that makes me look great. Makes me look fit and like well rested. So it's
well, it's funny. I have my watch does that same sort of thing. Lynn, is that it would? I'm kind of looking at that day that if it might already be there, where if it's tracking your heartbeats, and all of a sudden it realizes that you're in you're having a
cardiac
heart attack,
arrest. Yes,
that it knows if it should call 911 or it should call the coronary.
Oh,
the coroner. You know what I mean? It's like
coroner.
Red light, call the coroner.
Yeah, the coroner, coronary.
Or coronary,
Same word, brute.
It's Saturday. I told you I got 2 hours sleep last night, so bear with me.
No, that's amazing, really.
But I think it would be funny that on one side it'd be really helpful.
Actually, not
if
funny.
It would automatically
really
call
Terrific.
somebody.
Yes.
If
immediately.
It was having.
I was talking to somebody about that the other day because I was in very.
Yeah.
I was almost run over by the train. Another story. I
heard
was.
About that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I thought to myself, as I did all kinds of first responder kind of moves, I even surprised myself how fast I did everything I did. But I am the first responder type of person. And I thought to myself, wow, what if I couldn't have called anyone and no one could determine anything about me for months because the DNA would have been spread out from here to Camarillo when you run over by the train,
Yeah. That's
And
not a pretty thought.
nobody would have realized where I was, what happened to me. I was alone at the time, at night. And a friend of mine said, well, gee, wouldn't it have been great if there was sort of an app, that type of an app, where your watch knows exactly, almost saw what happened, heard what happened, knew there was something like that, and could tell your heartbeat was missing, gone.
Exactly. Yep.
And then call.
And then call.
And then you're identified much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's designing
still,
that app. If you haven't yet, do it.
We have really just barely scratched the tip of the surface.
We have.
And
we talked about how technology took us to here.
Yeah.
In our lifetime, we're going to see people on the moon.
But that's why it's
like
more
a whole
important
colony
today to make sure
space.
that we are aware of political correctness, that we ask for details, that we ask for leaders to connect the dots and show us why they're thinking something that we may think is not in line with what our values are.
Perfect way to end the show. That is our definition of political correctness as of today.
Okay, you got it, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Doug Halter, for coming on the show. I very much appreciate it. And all of you who have listened all this time, you've been tuned into News Talk 1590 KVTA. Stay there and have a great afternoon.